But that's a nice transition into talking about Domantas Sabonis in this series, which it was not pretty for the soon-to-be All-NBA center. Now, to start, we came into this series knowing that matching up with a small team like the Warriors was not going to be easy for Golden State, that they were going to find a way to disrupt him and screw with them. They did it in a way different. I mean, like just looking at the Looney Sabonis matchup, that kind of went a little way differently than I anticipated. Looney dominated for stretches, both on the glass and as a defender. And I mean, even beyond that, it's just Sabonis had kind of a rough series. I mean, he was the leading scorer in Game 7, and as I noted in the recap, I'm like, that's saying a lot, not in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is.
And then that concept of going small, maybe this is cutting a break to Mike Brown, but it's also not, because it's just like you have to be a leader at this point and make decisions. And it kind of helped the Kings' cause that Sabonis was getting beat up in Game 6, got like elbow to the eye. He was in foul trouble. So they kind of had, quote unquote, an excuse to keep their first or second best, part of their cohort of foundational stars on the bench. But it was almost like they didn't have an excuse not to play Sabonis. I don't know. Did they play him too much? I don't want to go too far and like say that Sabonis should have never played in Game 7 or something like that. But should there have been a better mix-up of trying to go small or knowing when to go away from Sabonis?
They kind of relied on Sabonis a little too much. I get you don't want to change up the game plan too much, but it's like, yeah, he had a good second game, but really after that, other than that second game, he was just kind of getting hounded from Looney and Draymond. He couldn't do much, and he had a good first half in Game 7, but he just did not have a very good second half, and they just kept trying to rely on him and stuff. And even in Game 6, I texted you. I'm like, I'm happy this dude's in foul trouble. Like, I'm glad he fouled out. Like, I'd rather just be small. That team was killing it. Like with Trey Lyles at the center, that was, I think, our best lineup of the whole series. And so I was kind of expecting a lot more of that in Game 7, and it just didn't seem like it ever came. So, it's hard to stray away from Sabonis, the guy who kind of got you there as that third seed, but it seemed like there were better options out there, unfortunately.
Playoffs are all about matchups, and we knew this was not a fair matchup. Now, if the Kings would have advanced and gone to go play the Lakers, I have no doubt that Sabonis would have slid right back into normal Sabonis mode against a bigger Lakers team in a situation where he could kind of do what he typically does. The Warriors are a unique adversary to face. There's really nobody like them. Sabonis said nobody plays like them. Nobody's built like them. They're tough. And I don't know. It just seemed like, again, another kind of mistake. You could probably throw this on the mistake pile. That it's just like matchups are everything. And it's just like Sabonis against 29 other teams, or I guess 28 other teams, is totally fine. And you stick with the typical thing. But it's like this, you might want to go different. And like you said, you don't want to go away from the game plan. Having Sabonis in there kept them from going to the game plan. The game plan was to play fast, to keep going faster, to play as fast as possible. And Sabonis was not facilitating that as well. Whereas when you had Lyles as the small five, you spread out the floor, you spaced it out. There's more room to run, more room to get downhill. It was just all working, just as you would think it would. And it's not even like they were paying attention to what happened in Game 6 in relation to Sabonis being on and off the floor. And it wasn't like Sabonis was terrible in Game 6. To his credit, probably his best moment in the series was the way he started Game 6. He set the tone for what ended up being the best. Between Games 1 and 2 and Game 6, take your pick for what the best win of the series was for the Kings. But to go into the Chase Center and win, that was crazy. And it started with Sabonis' first quarter. I think they scored 8 or 10 points unanswered, and Sabonis scored the majority of them or was involved and was playing great defense, which is another thing you can probably give Sabonis credit for. But we've been giving Sabonis credit for his defense all season because it gets overlooked all the time. He was pretty good at different points defensively in this series. But just overall, it just seemed like they got away from what's important in the playoffs and playing matchups. And like I said, Sabonis against the Lakers, I would be confident that he would be fine, that he'd be going back to flirting with triple doubles again. But they didn't really put themselves in a position to get there. So that's just a shame.
Yeah, it was a shame. And there's clearly, I mean, it factored into the Kings getting bounced in 7. You make a couple of adjustments. I mean, even just like that small ball talk, they started doing that from the get go. I mean, can they win that series? I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a lot easier looking back and picking
Monday
and
morning.
choosing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
morning
I mean,
quarterback.
hindsight's 2020, right? Did I say that right?
Yeah. No, I was trying to come up with like another like idiom or phrase so that we could go back and forth.
Yeah.
Monday morning quarterbacking and hindsight is 2020 is all I got at this point.
But man, the small ball lineup, that just and yeah, I just feel like they should have gone to that a lot more.